Good afternoon, everyone. Most of you, it's afternoon. Some of us lucky people are have it in the morning. It's actually still dark here for me, but here we are in Australia. There's a few other people that I think are joining us from different parts of the world. Hello, Dan. Hello, Heather. Nice to have you here.
Good morning, Graham.
Hello there. Good afternoon. So we've got a few questions. Questions people can post on the dashboard. You would have seen ask a question, so you can put it in there. And generally we do that. We ask questions through the form on the dashboard so that we can keep track of them easily so we don't get lost in the chat. But you're welcome to make comments and maybe supplementary questions in the Zoom chat, things that might be related to what we're talking about. These questions can be any types of advanced questions or maybe more entry level, you might think, starting out with Obvio. You might also have questions about online events and how you might manage something, and perhaps even some production questions. And so we're always open to kicking those around for a couple of hours as well. I believe there'll be a blue sighting at some point. He should be able to join us. But until then, we can see what questions I can answer. We can always, if there's some blue specific questions, we can have them when he gets here. Great. So what do we got, Heather?
So the first question that we saw in there is from Franklin. How do you use the broadcast function?
Yes, good question. So there is Blue has done a couple of videos. I'm trying to think, Heather, if we have one spun out separately before we did the onboarding videos. Yeah, there might be one there. Yeah, we'll get a link back, Franklin, to the broadcast function. So for people that are not familiar, the broadcast feature is a beta feature at the moment. It's by request. Anyone can request it, but by doing that request, you kind of are acknowledging that it's a beta module of Obvio, and it's for sending emails out to all of your attendees. And so we've been building on that module. It's been something that we've really wanted, really from day one of Obvio, is being able to send emails out to all of our attendees. It's particularly helpful because it's very easy to send login the magic links or the login URLs directly from Obvio. And so there's a couple of videos there. I'll just show you quickly for some of you that may not have seen it. Let me just get something here. Look at this. Everyone's coming in now, getting excited. It's good to see. Hey, Muddy. It's you, Muddy. Okay. I can use the event that we have that we're using for this one, the update. And let me share now. All these happy faces coming in. This is great. So be sure to put in your questions on the dashboard. There's the ask a question. So here's this section that we get now when you request this beta option of broadcast function. And so here's an example. If we just open another, actually, if I just think about this, I'll just view this one. So these are the sorts of options that you have. The name of the broadcast is just sort of an internal name. And then this tells us when it was sent, or it would say when you're choosing to send it. And then you have some options as to who it's sending to, and we're getting even more. We're having more options on this now because we did just initially have just checked in users, so people that have come to the dashboard, or people that haven't yet come to the dashboard and checked in. And so you could send a different email to people to say, hey, you haven't checked in yet, or you haven't been here yet, make sure you come in. And then the people that have, you can say, hey, here's a reminder, in 10 minutes we start, or in half an hour we start, whatever. But we also have a filtered list. I'll show you that in a second. Email at the moment, but we're experimenting with SMS text messages that you could send to people as well. So there's a few extra things that we're playing with there, and wrestling with some government regulation around the world. The email that you send from is something that you set up in your organization settings, so you can set it to come from your email address, and so you just need a little verification process there, the subject of the email and then the body. And so here's an example of the login link, and so that people can click on that link and it'll go straight to the dashboard. No password, no login screen. It takes them straight in as them. So everyone's getting an individual email from this system. So I was just going to show you that the filters are just the same as visibility rules that we have all through Obvio, particularly on the dashboard, is being able to choose some of these specific options if they've created a password, if they've checked in, but the add filter option is the rules, so tags and groups. So depending on what tags they are, you might have a tag that is a VIP, for example, and so you could send just a special email to all of your VIPs. And that could be something that's saying, hey, we've got a lunchtime event just for VIPs, or we've got an early session that starts, or something like that. So that's a general overview of how our broadcast system works. But yeah, you found something, Heather? Did you? It's our videos. Yes, there you go. Yeah, in the chat there, you find that link to that. Cool. So if you haven't got broadcast, you're interested, and you're also okay with the fact that it's beta at the moment. We're getting really close to coming out of beta with that. We've ran some big events with it, and we've sent lots of emails with it. And so, but if you haven't got it and you're interested to play around with it, then you can email help@obv.io and just request, can I please have access to broadcasts, and we'll turn it on for you. Cool. What's the next question?
So Amy had a question. She said her replays are not loading on the replay page. I downloaded most of them, but had not had a chance to download the June replays. With this, she did email back. Her replays showed up today, but for a while over the weekend, it was just showing a loading sign.
Okay. We weren't aware of an issue there or an outage on those, but it sounds like there might have been something going on. There is a process where when we're requesting the lists of recordings from Zoom, depending on how many of those recordings are there, it could take some time, and it might have even sort of stalled or something when it was trying to download that list. So that happens each time you load that page, as it's going and checking if there's new ones there. So it sounds like it might have been there might have been something else going on that was slowing that right down, and then it just wasn't showing up. But we hadn't heard of that. I'm glad that you're seeing them there now. So you managed to download them all, Amy, now? Did you? Yes. I saw a yes.
I did.
Good. Okay. Cool. Great. I'm glad. Yeah, we've had a few people, say with recordings, that they had missed particular sessions, or like it's been recordings have worked great, and where's this particular one? We are still yet to, and this has been my experience too. I am yet to have an experience where it said it was recording in Zoom to the cloud, and I don't get the recording. So some people say that that's what their experience is, and I'm not saying that that's not what they had. I'm just saying that I'm yet to experience that or see someone be able to say that they 100% had the recording on. So what I'm saying is, chances are more likely that it actually wasn't recording, that someone stopped it, than that Zoom said it was recording and then doesn't make the files available.
Yeah, we did have one of
missing?
those in June. One of them in June that did not show up on the dashboard. And I mean, it's just one meeting out of 1,000. So
Right.
it's missing. But my problem, it was just none of them were loading. All I saw was the little Obvio wheel spinning and spinning and
Right.
spinning,
Right.
which seemed
Yeah.
weird because they'd never
It's
done
a-
that before.
Yeah, and so that sounds like an anomaly that could be in the internet connection on that end. It could be from the connection to us talking to Zoom at that moment that it wasn't. But yeah, as I said, we didn't have a widespread experience like that. So I'm glad that
Good.
it did come back and that you were able to download them. So that's good. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
recordings is always an interesting one, and if it is absolutely mission critical that you have recordings of your events, then you need to find a way of being able to record that yourself as well, right? In some way, and it can be as simple as doing a screen recording, a screen capture, or something as basic as that. Sometimes we're using external devices for all of our content. So I have a separate camera and I've got a A10 mini that I can record on, and so at least recording my end would be really important, so that I have a really high quality recording of the content, as an example. So we always say, don't rely 100% on the cloud recordings. Having said that, it hasn't failed me yet. What has failed me is someone else pressing stop. And when you have co-hosts that have the ability to stop those recordings, that can let you down. So it's an area to be aware of. Cool. Hey, look, there's Blue on an afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Look, we've got lots of happy faces here today. It's good.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
see that.
What's our next question, Heather?
Christine said, how do we run pre-recorded videos as if they're live?
Yeah, okay. So there is
Can I actually just say, didn't we cover that pretty in depth on the last Q&A call? I feel like we went pretty deep on this one, didn't we?
Yeah, I guess
Right?
we did. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'd recommend.
Look at Blue being
I'd
all
recommend
efficient.
well, I'm just, not that I don't want to talk about it. It's just I feel like we spent a solid 20 minutes on the 3 or 4 different options.
You're right.
One being just playing it through Zoom. We talked about playing it through OBS and a few other options. I know we covered that pretty in depth on the last call.
Yep, that's the high level thing. So we'll find Heather, if we get the YouTube link to last week, then we can post that in there, and you'll be able to scrub through that quickly and find that question. In fact, you can probably even search the captions that are in it too. Look at that. There you go. All right, next question.
So Rick said, Liz and I are launching our first Obvio Run event on August 11th. Can I create a webinar or sales page on Obvio where potential attendees can see our 3-day workshop, register, and pay? Or do I have to use my ClickFunnels 2.0 account for sales to purchase and registration, and then download the CSV file for the attendees?
I think it's safe to say that the marketplace system is in beta, and there are some issues that we are aware of. The main issue being that from time to time, modifying an existing marketplace page can wipe the entire marketplace page. So it's a pretty significant problem. The reason it hasn't been resolved yet is because we're actually working on a brand new marketplace release. I was just talking to the developer about that, who's working on it right before this call. And we're hoping to have it out in the next 2 weeks. So that's kind of where we're at. With that being said, if my event, I would be hesitant to use the marketplace for a real event right now. I just I would pause on that, Rick. I would use ClickFunnels and just go that route. It's going to be safer and probably a little less headache filled.
Hey, thanks for the input. I think the challenge we have now with ClickFunnels is we have about 600 contacts in it. And if it's a new person that, hey, they're on the outside, they just saw that, they put all their information in the input fields, I get their name right away on top. However, the issue with ClickFunnels I'm having right now, if they're my existing contact list and they say, oh, great, I want to hear Liz, they put their name in, it'll disappear into oblivion. I'll have to literally go through the contacts to see that they've actually signed up. So that's an issue I'm struggling with ClickFunnels. You can see my dilemma. Any thoughts on that?
Totally. Yeah, so ClickFunnels 2.0 has a webhook system. And I would tie their webhook system into Zapier and create your attendees using that. ClickFunnels 2.0, oddly enough, doesn't have native Zapier support just yet, but their webhook system and the amount of, so basically what a webhook is like based on certain actions that your visitors take, they can fire a little piece of information to other services. And you can, they have, I'm pretty sure there's a ClickFunnels 2.0 YouTube video about how to use webhooks with Zapier so that you can see, okay, if it's an opt-in for a specific page, you can trigger a webhook that goes to a Zapier premium account. You do need a premium account with that, which I think is $14 or $15 a month, something like that. And then you can take that information into Zapier and distribute it to whatever system you're going to use from there.
Okay.
It is surprising
do
to
that.
me, though, that ClickFunnels doesn't have a way to tag a contact, whether it's a new contact or an existing contact, when they opt in to a page. That feels incredibly rudimentary, and I would be surprised if that's not there somewhere.
Okay, that means I haven't seen it, I'm just starting to use my workflow. So it might be it's there, but I haven't seen it because, ClickFunnels, it is kind of sort of beta and it's like, oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
That's been my experience.
Yeah. It is interesting. I'll just say that. I've played around with ClickFunnels 2.0, not enough to really, like, we haven't done anything with production inside of ClickFunnels 2.0, meaning anything live. We've only done a bunch of testing. Really excited by it because I think there's a lot to like about it. But there are some things that I'm surprised aren't there.
I am too. Like, it'll capture name, I can say full name or first name, last name, email. But then when you ask to do titles, you have to do community bio, and that doesn't work right now. And then phone numbers don't get captured when you're doing the input. So that seems pretty rudimentary.
I've got nothing.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, there are some areas of 2.0 that are surprising to me that aren't there. And then, when I was looking through the webhook system, I was surprised how powerful it was. So there's two sides to that.
Okay, good. Webhook. I'm learning all these things. Again, for everybody else, there's a lot of great features with ClickFunnels 2.0. We were using GoDaddy, and that felt like a Model T Ford. Reliable, but a Model T Ford. Or ClickFunnels, it feels like more of a Lexus. You're kind of cruising it along, you know where you're going. Except once in a while, it's like, I have no idea what these buttons are. So that's my experience.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, I log into Obvio and every once in a while, I think to myself, I have no idea what that button does. So I understand where they're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. You know, I think these platforms as a whole are not an insignificant feat to develop. So I will just say, with a decent amount of compassion, I have a lot more understanding for what's necessary today than I did 3 years ago.
Yeah, especially designing it. One thing I tell everybody else, I like their workflow feature. It will let me know when somebody opted in. Sometimes trying to find that contact if they're already existing is a challenge, but they will let me know. I'll get a notification or email. It's like, oh, okay, something's happening. I better check it out. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, and like Tendai said, you know, they have a really good support team. So I would be reaching out to them and saying, hey, how do you
Okay.
do this? Incidentally, that's how I figured out how to use Zapier and ClickFunnels 2.0 together, as I reached out to support, because I was like, really, you don't have a Zapier integration? I feel like we wouldn't launch our platform without having that. So
Yeah.
what's going on? So anyway, it's all good.
Okay.
That's when they said,
Thanks.
but look how powerful this webhook system is. I was like, okay, yeah, we didn't have that. So good call.
Thank you.
You bet.
Our next question is from Kristen. She said, is there any automation for syncing context from the CRM into events for clients to log in the day of the event?
Yes, depends on which CRM you're talking about. We have currently 4 CRMs that are natively supported: HubSpot, Keep, ActiveCampaign, and MailChimp. We're in the process of testing a 5th native integration, which is high level. And then other CRMs are supported through our Zapier integration. So if your CRM can work with Zapier, we have Zapier support that allows you to ingest new attendees and then write their login URL back to your CRM so that you can email them their login links.
All right. Next question is from Genevieve. Troubleshooting inserting unique magic login URL in Keep. She followed the video in Obvio and created a custom field when importing attendees, but in Keep, the custom field is showing on attendees, but their unique URL is not. Do you have any thoughts?
Maybe. Genevieve, do you want to, are you comfortable sharing your screen so that we can take a look at the Obvio integration page, but then also take a look at your Keep account quickly?
Sure. Yep. Which one do you want to see first?
Let's start with Obvio.
Okie doke. Give me 1 second here. Here we go. Here's Obvio.
Okay, so if you'll go to services under attendees.
Yep, so I linked that.
All right, so you're putting them in the Obvio teacher train unique URL July 2023. Okay. So go to your go to attendees for me. Okay, so now let's go into will you click on Noah? Okay, go ahead and close that. If you want to copy and paste that Noah's or Anna Noah's email address, that may be helpful.
All right. All right.
All right, now let's pop into Keep.
Doke. 1 second here. Sorry,
You have a
I'm on
tab
a,
open. Yeah, it's all right. You have a tab open, one to the right. Is that not keep?
oh, it probably is. There we go. Here we go. But maybe I didn't click on custom fields. Let's see. Here we go. So this is showing the login, the custom field I created is showing, but
Can you go back to
the
keep for a second? Or sorry, can you go back to Obvio for a second? In
Yep.
teacher in July.
oh, I had done it the first time and then I renamed it. I was working with James, very nice. So I redid it. So it should be, let's see.
Obvio teacher train. Okay, so now,
It
hold on
should
one
be
second.
this, sorry.
Okay, but it wasn't. All right,
Yeah,
so
so maybe that's
go-
where I've messed up.
yeah, so go down to the bottom
Okay,
and click save all the way down at the bottom.
yep.
All right, now go back up to the top. All right, now click import attendees. What this should do, Genevieve, is it should re-trigger the import.
Mm-hmm.
However, with that being said, your existing attendees may not actually get re-imported properly. So let's go back to keep, just the one tab to the right. Yep, there you go. And let's go ahead and refresh this page. And then click on custom fields at the top.
Oh, yay, you did it.
There you go.
So what, just so I can learn moving forward, I'm not sure, actually, I really don't know what I did wrong, to tell you the truth.
The wrong field was selected.
So I just selected,
So-
okay, and it reverted.
You may have renamed. So what may have happened is it sounds like you may have renamed the login URL after
Yeah.
you set the integration. And if you rename the field that Obvio is looking for, when it goes to create or when it goes to save the URL, it's going to fail because it doesn't see the URL or it doesn't see the field because you renamed it.
Right.
So
Okay.
what we have to do is reset the field, save the integration, and then re-trigger the import, which kind of refreshes everything inside of Keep. To be frank, I wasn't 100% sure if that would actually work or if we were going to have to clear your attendees and then re-import.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's
but
great.
seems to have
Thank you.
worked.
Okay, super. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is also from Genevieve. She said, on recordings, if I have an event, will I be able to get the recording for day one and post that the same night? And after day two, get the recordings to post that the same night?
Maybe. And the reason I say maybe is because it's not actually reliant on Obvio, it's reliant on Zoom processing the video. So if you think about what happens if you were to just load up a regular Zoom meeting and do an 8-hour meeting, when you end that meeting, the recording isn't available through Zoom instantly. Usually the recording takes a multiple of time.
It's 1 to 2 times real time. Yeah.
Yeah. But with that being said, Grant, haven't we had experiences where for long meetings, it's processing the parts in advance?
If you stop it.
Only if you
I'll
stop.
just, if you don't mind, so it's 2 hours, it's a 2-hour meeting, or
Right.
I get no 3-hour meeting. And so in the past, when I've just done it on my own Zoom account, you're right, it takes about 5 hours or something to process, and I get it. So I guess my question is, if I do it through Obvio, is the Zoom processing time about the same? It would be the same. So if in the past, if I've been able to get it by midnight, theoretically, I should be able to get it by midnight.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and I
Theoretically.
would check. I would check after about 2 hours or so, and
Yeah.
it'll the moment that it's available from Zoom, it'll be available in Obvio.
Okay. Okay.
And so you just come back and check. So there's only a couple of variations in that, and that is that we have those separate the separate gallery view, the separate active speaker, screen share, so if there's lots of screen share, then you end up with a few more files, and those files will take a little bit longer to process. And so that would be the thing. So the only trick that we've found that Blue was saying there before is if you stop the recording and then start it again, it'll start processing that recording. It will not be available until the meeting has ended, but the processing of that video will start. So you may find that you might have a little bit of a post show that happens, a post event sort of thing that happens. If you stop your recording and you still want to keep the recording of the post show, but you're like, here's the official part, I'm going to stop and start again straight away. That'll start processing that the main part of the show. It'll once again, it will never become available until your meeting has finished. And so that instance of that meeting is finished. But then, I've had times where big long shows, and as soon as I've stopped it, that first part of the event was available. So that's a bit of a hack there, but stop and start recordings with caution.
Yes, I don't like to stop. Believe me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's to turn it back on.
Exactly. That's why you just stop, start. Like you don't wait. Yeah, exactly.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
Cool. No worries. Next question.
Amy said, this may be more of a Zoom question, but can I put attendees into Zoom rooms based on tags and have a select number of attendees with a tag in each room? For instance, 2 from each tag for a total of 6.
Okay, so there's 2 answers to that question. One is technically, yes, you can do that. But what I'm wondering is, are you asking to actually put them in separate Zoom rooms, or are you asking if you can put them in separate breakout rooms within a single Zoom meeting?
Yes. So what I'm asking
You're asking the second one, right? Like if you can put them into breakouts within a separate Zoom
I want to
meeting?
put them in, I want to put them in breakout rooms within the same Zoom meeting.
Based on tag.
Based on tag, but they might not all be in that Zoom meeting on the same day.
Yeah.
That
So
makes sense.
the short answer to the question is no, you can't. Again, the slightly longer answer to your question is you'll have to do it manually. However, depending on this, how big are these meetings, Amy? Are they really 6 people and you're trying to put 2 in each, or are they 600 and you're probably trying to put 200 in each?
No, there's each meeting would be 6 people. There's about 50, 60 people total.
But you're thinking there's never going to be more than 5 or 6 people in the meeting?
Right.
And are the tags the same for the entire event?
The tags will shift. So the tags will shift over time.
Okay.
And they would shift different.
Yeah, it's going to be manual. However, with only 6 people, doing that manually actually isn't all that hard. And what you may want to do is create Zoom labels or attendee labels, where inside of Zoom, in the participant list, you can see which tag you're intending each person to have. Right. So you get 6 people. Let's just use tags 1, 2, and 3. All right. Just for simplicity's sake. You can create attendee labels where if an attendee has tag 1, then append the number 1 to their name, right? And you can all do that all within attendee labels really easily. And then when you're in Zoom creating your breakouts for, for 6 to 10 people, you can easily, with their name, identify where they need to be rather than having to constantly look up attendees one at a time and check their tags. So while it doesn't completely solve the problem for you to automate it, it does make it a little bit easier to do it manually.
Okay. Because it's a little bit like the pods, except that
They change.
except that they change as they move through the class.
Yeah.
And we don't want all the people in the room to be from the same level of the class.
I understand. Yep.
Okay.
And as you just remember that attendee labels are done priority level, right? So the most important is at the top. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you have 10 tags or 10, actually, let's use LEAP as an example. You have 6 milestones, right? You have 6 sections of the course. And everybody who's in section 1 gets tag 1. Everybody who's in section 2 gets tag 2, but they still have tag 1. Then everybody who's in section 3 gets tag 3, but they still have section tags 1 and 2, et cetera, right? So it's an aggregate. So how the order would work is you'd want to put the last tag that they get as the top priority level, right? So, and then the next second last, the second priority, the third last, the third priority, et cetera. So what Obvio will do when the attendees join Zoom, it'll go through those attendee labels in order, starting at number 1, and it'll say, do they have tag 10? No. Do they have tag 9? No. Do they have tag 8? No. Do they have tag 7? Yes, they do. Apply attendee label 7, right? So you have to do it in reverse of what you would think it is, because naturally you'd think maybe, okay, I have to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually the exact opposite.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then, but then it's going to apply, like it would put all of tag 3 in one room, or
It's not going to do that. You're going to do that.
oh, I don't want to do that.
Well, it's going to put all, so this is not about rooms at all. I'm just giving you a way to label your attendees inside of Zoom,
Right. Sure.
with which section of the course they're in.
Mhm.
When they join Zoom, you then have to put them in a breakout manually.
Okay. That's what I needed to do.
Unless, is this really for breakouts though, or are you trying to?
No, it's not really breakouts. So when they get on the dashboard, the only button they will see will have to do with their tag. And so there would be 2 people with tag 1 and 2 people with tag 2 and 2 people with tag 3 who would get into that Zoom room.
And are you in each of them, or do you have a
No,
host for each of those 3 rooms?
We have hosts for each of those rooms.
So then why don't you create 3 different areas, each with a single room, have a button assigned to each of those areas, like room 1, room 2, room 3, and then have visibility on the buttons based on 1, 2, and 3. The only question that I'm going to ask you is, at any point, do you need to have the same video and audio going to all 3 rooms?
No.
Okay, then that's how you would do it. You do it with 3 different areas, each with a
Well,
single
but there's, okay, but if we do 3 areas, then is that going to, I wish I could diagram this. If we do 3 areas, then that's going to put people in different meetings, correct?
Isn't that what you're trying to do?
Well, kind of. What we want to do is put We have 60 people. And we want to divide them into 10 different meetings,
Okay.
but we want to put the first graders, we want to put 2 of them in a meeting and 2 second graders and 2 third graders. And then in the next.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. So hold on. Sorry. Are you saying that you want to mix the meetings?
Yes,
with
we want the
first,
meeting
second, and third
mixed.
grader?
Yes,
How are you going to tag them like for that?
that was my kind of my thought was we were going to tag them module 1, module 2, module 3, because that's where they're at. And then I was trying to figure out how to sort them into rooms so that we could get that kind of a sort.
Yeah, but you're so what you're kind of asking for is a random shuffle sort.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
random, unrandom
So
shuffle
I
sort.
can tell you, Obvio doesn't support that at
Okay.
this time.
What I'm thinking, so, but the other thing might be that we could just manually tag people by their
by the room you want
host
them in.
name, by the host name. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Like this is room 1, this is room 2, this is room 3. And then you decide as you're tagging them, all right, let's make sure we have 2 first graders, 2 second graders, and 2 third graders all in room 1.
Right. So they might have 2
And then-
tags. They would have the 1, 2, and 3 tag, but then they'd
Yeah,
also have.
exactly.
the
You're
room
gonna
name.
have an identifying tag that identifies what grade they're in, and then a second which Obvio will pretty much ignore. And you'll have a secondary tag which will say what room they're supposed to be in or what class they're supposed to be in. And that would be how you get them to meetings.
That I thought work. Thank you.
Cool. How what integration are you using? What CRM are you using?
Active Campaign.
Okay. And be sure to use the Active Campaign native integration. It'll be a lot easier than trying to set that up with Zapier. And then use tags inside of Active Campaign.
Okay. That'll work best because my VAs will be able to do the tags in Active Campaign easier than in Obvio. Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
And the
Awesome.
tags for Active Campaign come across exactly as they are spelled in Active Campaign. So if there's a space, there's a space. If there's a colon, there's a colon, like exactly 1-to-1. How they appear in Active Campaign is exactly how they appear inside of Obvio.
Okay. Got it. That'll work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So our next question is from Dorita. She said, are there still major Zoom security issues? I have a government client that is concerned about accessing Zoom through Obvio.
That was some
I'm
great.
aware of.
No, it's not. That was some great or terrible marketing or something that happened sort of during COVID. The thing to
during COVID.
exactly, and still
Yeah.
people talk about it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Dorita, Zoom actually did a complete feature freeze for almost a full year, where the only thing they released was security updates. Like they put their entire development team was working exclusively on security. So I think your best bet to answer this question is to make sure that whatever client you have doesn't have a problem with Zoom. If they have a problem with Zoom, they will always have a problem with Obvio because the two are tied together. But if they don't have a problem with Zoom, they won't have a problem with Obvio.
I would also ask for specific concerns around the security of it. So it has this. There's that. The general idea, it's not secure. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean it's not secure in that a random person's just going to pop into a meeting? Well, no, that can't happen, right? So we we have that locked down even more so than standard Zoom meetings, right? So it would be really saying that if they're saying, oh, from an IT perspective, people are able to access Zoom meetings, that's incorrect. They're encrypted. The meetings are encrypted. There's no way that people are sniffing out getting in between, going in between, and capturing the meeting data. That's not possible. It's all encrypted end to end. Where that changes is when someone joins by a phone with Zoom, and we don't allow that in Obvio, right? And so I think that my guess is that they wouldn't be able to articulate what it is that's insecure or security problems. And if they were able to articulate it and say that it was random people popping into meetings, then you would be able to explain that the way that we have Zoom set up and the way that we use Obvio, it's not possible to do that. Everyone is specifically registered, and is a programmatic manual process of approving those registrations. So only the people they want in that meeting will be there. So I wouldn't have any concerns. From a government point of view, Zoom does have a Zoom for Government product, which goes to a whole nother level. And of course, Obvio doesn't support that. But I know of lots of governments that are just using standard Zoom, and was part of the problem too, right? When it came to some courtrooms and things like that, and they had random people popping in because they were sharing meeting links out, like publicly. So yeah, there's always stupidity when it comes to security you got to think of. Happy to help with that though. If you get specific concerns, we're happy to write responses to that. And also Zoom would be too. I would go straight to them on some stuff. Next question.
All right. Bez said, are there any workflows drawn out for us that we can build from?
I think that's a broad question that we'd need a little bit more specificity on what you were looking for, Bez.
Well, you guys been talking about tags and if this, then that. And so, in my mind goes immediately, hey, if there's already something drawn out that I can tweak and modify, then, I'll be a little bit faster and quicker in setting mine up. So that's where my question's based out of.
Gotcha. So when it comes to tags, clients that tend to use tags the most are clients who, for the most part, are bringing their attendees into Obvio from a third-party system like ActiveCampaign or Keep or HubSpot or MailChimp that supports tags. And they're already using tags in their internal systems to identify contacts in certain ways. And when we import attendees from those systems, we include the tag data. We don't just include first name, last name, and email address. We also include the existing tags that the contacts have in your CRM. Doing that allows you to then create customized experiences for attendees of certain types, meaning if you have this tag, you can see this thing. If you don't have this tag, you can't see that thing, et cetera, et cetera. So I would simply say to you that what those come down to is customizing the dashboard experience based on attendee types or tagging information. And if you have any ideas as to how you could do that or things that you want to do, then we could probably help you do that. But with Obvio being a fairly powerful system when it comes to being able to customize that experience and being able to, route attendees through tech check differently, being able to have different, stage buttons, have different blog posts visible, have different Zoom backgrounds visible based on different tagging information or attendee data, it's a lot easier for us to give you guidance if you have a specific idea in mind that you can't figure out. The one thing that I would say though is make sure that the data lives in Obvio. If it doesn't live in Obvio, there's nothing that we can do, right? So when you're importing your attendees, make sure that you're importing that tag information. If you're doing a CSV import, make sure that you include the tags column, which is simply a comma delimited field. So you can still import tags manually through the CSV function. And then from there to play with it, I would simply start with a button, right? Start with a button on your dashboard and go into the settings and click on the rules tab and add a rule and see if you can make it visible if an attendee has a specific tag and see how that behaves. And that'll start giving you ideas in terms of what's possible.
So I was thinking of using Obvio. I think we had talked about this virtual career fair, and use Obvio for the registration page. Have them answer a few questions, sort of to pre-screen them, and then so that they have a good candidate experience, even if they don't need to be in there. I have 3 different paths that I'm thinking somebody will, after filling out the form. Now, when they fill out that form, is that when we tag them? Or, I mean, I would assume that's when the tags are applied. Am I correct?
No, you're not wrong, but you're also not correct. So there's one piece that is missing from the statement that you made. And the piece that's missing is when somebody answers a form in a certain way, they're not necessarily tagged at all inside of Obvio. However, they have answered the form in a certain way. And the same way we can use tagging information to display or hide certain pieces of information or certain components of the dashboard, we can also use form responses in the exact same way. So that's probably more what your question is around, which is, how do I display or hide specific information based on a form response? Which comes down to first creating the tag, or sorry, the form, and then doing that. Last time we spoke, we talked about the fact that you were going to create a form inside of an event. Have you done that step yet?
I've actually have it on paper. I'm about to transfer it over there to see how it looks. So
cool.
But
so
yeah.
Once you do that, once you create the form and then add it to the waiver step, and then go to that button and still do the same thing, add a rule, and from the rule, select form response as the rule type. You'll be able to select the form, select the question within the form, and then select the response itself. It's all really self-explanatory once you start clicking on it, which is why I wanted you to actually do it and then pop on. And if you have any problems, we'll give you a hand.
Gotcha. Okay. So I got to do an actual step. So thank you.
You're welcome, Beth.
All right. So Genevieve said, super basic question. Is the advantage of sending attendees their magic link an increased ability to track their behavior versus just sending the generic event link to log in? If they log in on the generic link, can you not track their behavior, correct?
Yeah, the advantage to doing that, Genevieve, is ease of use for the attendee. It's user experience. It's not about trackability. The trackability is identical whether they log in through the login page or they log in using the magic link. But the experience that your attendee has clicking on the link and being automatically logged in versus clicking on a link, having to remember what email address that I registered with, sign up or type in my email address, hopefully without making any mistakes while I type that email address, then typing in the password, hopefully having read the password correctly, assuming you've remembered to put the default password on the login page, or maybe if you include it in the email, copy and paste the password from the email. You see where I'm going with this? Like, I'm not trying to be like funny. I mean, maybe a little, but that's the experience they have. When you ask them to log in, they've got to do all those steps. Whereas when you ask them to click a link, that's all they have to do. So it's really about user experience. And that's the only thing it's about. 100% user experience. It's just way better.
So I probably did something wrong at some point again. So when I had done a test right before, I mean, I didn't even pull it out of Keep, just out of Obvio, the magic link, and sent it to someone to test. But then when they clicked on the magic link, they still got the login page for email and password. So that's what confused me. So do I not
So,
set up right?
so there's a couple of things. So number one, there's a very small chance that if somebody clicked on a magic link while Obvio was having service interruption, which does happen from time to time, although it's exceptionally rare, then they may have seen a login link. But that would have to have corresponded perfectly with the problem we were having. What's more likely is that the link that they got, when they copied and pasted it, they didn't copy the full link properly. That's more likely. Or when they clicked on the link, it wasn't sent as a link, it was just sent as text. And maybe Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo Mail or Outlook or something, whatever they clicked from, didn't properly make the full link the link. But my experience is the login links don't fail.
Okay. So, and the login link is like in Obvio, you go under attendees, and if you click on someone, right, like where it says unique URL, that is the correct one, right? Okay. Well,
now I will give you a heads up that there's a new thing that was added to Obvio recently, which is this waiver URL. And the waiver URL is the attendee's signed waiver. And then there's the login URL, which is their login token. So you may just want to, there's now 2 URLs there. So you just want to make sure that you don't just pop in there and click copy right away. Because you may accidentally copy the wrong thing.
Okay. Yeah, I disabled waiver, so I think I'm good there, but I'll just try it again.
Exactly. If the waiver is disabled, then it won't be there for sure.
Okay. All right. So it should work. So the unique URL, they should not have to be doing email and password. Nope. Okay.
No, great. The only thing that, and then what I would say to you is before you send it to them, copy the URL, open up a new browser window or a new tab, paste it, and see if it works for you before you have them check it.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Because
good idea.
If it works for you, then it's probably user error on their end.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's one of the reasons why when you send it via like Keep or HubSpot or whatever service you're using, we always include let's just talk about best practices. Okay. What I usually do is we have somewhere in the email that says, click here to access your dashboard. And then we make that text a link, and we make the link the login URL, the magic link, right? So when they get the email, it says, click here to log in. They click there, and that is their magic link. And then we also put down at the bottom, usually a PS of some sort, something that says, PS, if for some reason the link above doesn't work, please copy and paste the following URL into a new browser window to access your dashboard, : insert login URL, which is no different than if you were to like reset your password with almost any service. They do the same thing, right? You have the click to reset your password, and then down at the bottom, there's usually this really long URL that is like, if the link above didn't work, try this one. So it's the same process that we're recommending inside of your emails.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks.
Cool.
All right, our next question is from Steven. He said, if you re-import a client with new tags, does it write over or add tags to the original attendee?
Overwrites. If you're doing it as an import, it overwrites.
And those were all the questions that have come in so far.
Cool. And Steve, I'll actually, let me go one step further. It doesn't just overwrite tags, it overwrites all the information for that attendee based on the email address, right? So if it's the same email address, but a different first name and last name, it'll rename them as well. So it's more of an update when it's an existing email address. But it's a full update.
I just saw that comment from Dorita, which makes a lot of sense because as we were talking all about it, are you with us now? You are. You could.
Yeah, we're waiting on her to come back in. She can't get back
that's
in.
cool. It's cool because as we were talking about it, you did just seem very like ho hum, just kind of like, yeah, whatever, like clearly not listening, but it seemed like it was like I'm not really down with your answer. It was real, and so now it makes sense that you weren't listening to us at all.
No, we're recording videos for a conference, and
okay.
I have these international people, and so she's on from Australia. She didn't want to get on it, and we had to convince her to get on it. And then she got on it and she dropped in the middle of the presentation. So
I mean, you gotta watch those Australians. You can't trust them. So we were just saying that it'd be interesting to know specifically what security concerns they had. And so we lost you again. Oh no, you're there. Because they're really at the start of COVID, there was this perception of Zoom was really insecure, and it was lots of people, Zoom bombing and kind of, gate crashing people's meetings and it was like panic, and it was a bit of techno panic. But Zoom really locked down. They did a feature lock for like 9 months where they just concentrated on security. That was in 2020. And really all that is creating security features. And all of those things are the things that we enjoy now. And on top of all of that, Obvio, the way that we have gone about it, have made it even more secure because of the way that we do handle registrations and things like that. And so the security aspect would be diving into what is it specifically that you think is insecure. And I get from a government point of view, that might be like, could people be infiltrating it? Could be other countries be listening to our conversations? And it's end-to-end encrypted, Zoom is, and so that's not possible. Where there's an exception of that is where people join via telephone, like phone line, and we don't allow that in our Obvio account, and so they can't do that, and so it maintains that encryption. And then you can't just have people just dropping into Obvio meetings easily. So there's a few things, but I'd be asking specifically, what are you concerned about? What are the security concerns? And between Obvio and Zoom, I think that you would be able to satisfy them completely. There is also a Zoom for government specific product, which is separate, and it goes to a whole nother level of encryption and things like that. I don't think that would be necessary. And of course, we don't use that with Obvio. But yeah, that's just something you can explore. You're muted.
I was saying it took her 2 or 3 devices to get in. She kept changing devices. So she finally got in, and then
I'm
she was
glad.
halfway through, and then she fell out. And so she was saying that it was not allowing her to come back. And I told her to just restart her computer, actually. That happened to me this morning. I just had to do a whole restart before I could get in. And it worked after that, but I couldn't access anything at first.
What experience were you getting? Was it just not joining, or?
It just wasn't joining. And so I had 2 people. I had someone from India get on, and it wouldn't let them just use the link because I did a link to the room. They needed the meeting ID and password. So she eventually got in that way, but the basic link that I gave her to come in, it wouldn't just populate. It wouldn't work. So it was really strange, but it only happened with these 2 international people.
Yeah, I mean, the computer's
Okay, she's
the same.
back. She just got back. Okay.
Okay.
You're back. Okay, I'll be back. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Good times.
We did have another question come in.
Mm-hmm.
So Genevieve just tested the magic URL. They will have to set a password initially, correct? Then moving forward, their magic link brings them directly into the event.
Only
Correct.
if you have the password step turned on. And I'll tell you, we have a lot of clients who are actually turning the password step off because of the fact that they send magic links as their default way of doing things. So you can turn off the password step by going to the check-in area, going to check-in, and going to password right up top here and just disabling it. And then if you disable it, then they won't have to do that. So it is entirely possible. And incidentally, I didn't think about that. It is possible that if you had the password step turned on, they may have seen that page and thought it was a login page, not a create your password page.
Yeah. So if you if you disable the password, though, you can, the only people that can join, though, are ones that are listed as attendees, right? Like
That's true regardless of whether or not you disable the password step. So here's what the password step. The password step is not a password requirement. A password is always required to log into Obvio. What it does is it disables individual attendees from having their own password. So what becomes important at that point is that you set the event password just in case somebody lands on the login page. Okay, so here let's just talk about this from a user perspective. Like, what's the experience that attendees have? So under settings for your event, there is an attendee default password that you can change. It has to be 8 characters long. That's the only requirement. Beyond that, you can make it whatever you want. Okay. Now, if I was going to, so by default for like the TVE event, which is what I'm looking at right now, we have the password step enabled. But if I were to disable it, what I would probably do along with that as a kind of best practices is I would update the login page to include some language around what the default password is, right? Like the event default password is TVE62003. Please log in using the email address you registered for the event with, right? That's probably not great language, but whatever. So I would probably put something like that on the login page because the attendee still needs to know their email address. that they registered with, and then they can log in that way. So here, let me tell you why I would do that. So now I have my password step is disabled. So when somebody clicks on the magic link, they'll automatically go to the waiver step if it's enabled. I know you said yours was not, or they'll go to the tech check step if it was enabled. If it's not, they'll just simply go to the dashboard. Now, if you're always sending out magic links, you may be thinking to yourself, well, Blue, I'm only going to send them magic links. How is anybody ever going to wind up on the login page, right? And here's what happens. Your attendees, somebody, not very few of them, I mean, I don't know very many people who use bookmarks anymore. It tends to be my experience, an older demographic that uses bookmarks more than a younger demographic, okay? So if you have an attendee who clicks the magic link and they're like, this is where I need to go for the rest of the event. And now they click on the add bookmark, right? And they bookmark that page. Now, if they use the same browser and use the bookmark rather than clicking on your magic link, they won't have any problems. But if they go to a different device, right? Because a lot of our devices these days have the ability to sync bookmarks across devices, right? So if they go to another device and use the same bookmark, they'll now be asked to log in because the page that they bookmarked is not their magic link. The page that they bookmark is the dashboard URL. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit of an edge case where most people, like when we do this, very, 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 very few people land on the dashboard, or sorry, land on the login page. But some still do. So what we are constantly trying to do and constantly working against is I want to make sure that people don't ever get frustrated, right? When they're coming to an event, whether it's a free event or a paid event, the worst thing that we could have happen is an attendee gets frustrated and says, I'm not doing this. This is stupid, right? Or this is so frustrating. Like we just want them to have a good, easy experience as best we can, while at the same time keeping things secure. And
because those people probably already have an aversion to online events, right? And then as soon as they experience a little bit of inconvenience, then it's all just too hard. But the whole password step was kind of legacy too, right? Like we've still got it there, but we had that password step in there before we had magic links even available. I'm saying I would think at some point we could. Are you talking
about like Obvio 1.0?
Yeah, well,
I feel like, okay, all right, sure.
Because I'm saying we always had step one as like create a password, and that makes it easier for you to log in from other devices. Well, we've got a lot of other steps that we've built out, and even default password we didn't have before, right? Like there's all these things that have come along the way that have started to make that step one almost obsolete. But there's just a couple of cases where it's still useful. But I think for 99%, people don't need step one.
Yeah. So, but with that being said, just remember that some people will wind up on the login page. And if you don't tell them what the default password is or how to log in, when they get there, they'll get stuck and get confused. And that's the part that we don't want, right? And, you know, you may say, well, can't we just eliminate the login page entirely? At least I've thought that multiple times. And then I remember that one of the advantages of having Obvio is you now have secure events, right? Where people who pay for their events are the people who get in, not the people who don't. And security always comes at a convenience cost. It doesn't matter what you're doing, right? Like my house, it would be very convenient to not have keys, right? It's way easier just to walk in the front door without having to pull my keys out of my pocket and unlock the door when I'm carrying a bunch of groceries in one hand and the dog in another. But for security, we have a lock on the door, right? So it doesn't matter where you are, like security always comes at a cost of convenience, and we're always weighing that cost. We have made things, in some cases, there are some areas that feel a little, there are things that when we first talked about doing Obvio, we always said we'd never do. Like, I remember calls when we first launched Obvio saying the password step will always be there. I remember saying the waiver step will always be there. These are words that came out of my mouth in 2021 when we launched Obvio. And, not in any way comparing myself to Steve Jobs in this moment, but it's kind of like when he said an iPod will never play video, right? And then they released an iPod that played video. So we all say stuff that we then at some point find a way to work around to make the user experience better. Again, not in any way comparing myself to Steve Jobs, not at all, not even a little bit. I wish I could. That's not a real thing. All right, moving on.
I got nothing else to move on to at this moment. You want to just keep talking about Steve Jobs?
Yeah, thanks for that. Actually, you know what? I wanted to point out a couple of things. We've made a few changes to the user interface over the course of the last couple of weeks. For the most part, minor. However, if you've been using the platform for a while, you may be wondering, where'd that go? So I just want to point out a few changes that have taken place. Number one, most of them have taken place in the check-in area. So number one, the check-in submenu no longer has a settings page. And you might be thinking, well, why not? That feels rather important. We need the settings for the check-in. But about 6 months ago, when we redid all of the configuration for the individual check-in pages, every single one of the settings that were accessible on the settings page were made accessible on the individual pages. So it was confusing to some to have this settings page, but then also be able to change it elsewhere. And the better user experience is to change it on the pages themselves. So if you're looking for the settings page, your eyes are not deceiving you. It is in fact gone. Next up, the waiver step used to have a logo option up at the top, as well as an option to say to change the file names of the waivers that were saved for each event. Because of the fact that the body of the waiver itself can actually include an image, having the logo, which simply was something that was saved to the PDF, which that was really not clear, but what that was an image that was saved to the top of each PDF when a waiver was signed. If you still want to do that, you can do that within the waiver body itself. It's just a cleaner experience for people to not have this option that nobody really knows what it's for. The other thing that we've removed is the option to name the individual files. Again, mostly because it was never used. And the few times that we saw it in use, it wasn't actually being used effectively. People were just putting stuff in there because they didn't know what to do with it. So just so you know, when you go to the waiver step, you no longer see a logo upload, and you also no longer see a file name step. Something that is coming probably next week that isn't done yet is we're about to add 2 toggles, on-off toggles to this waiver step. Something that folks have been asking for quite some time is, how do I do an intake survey without a waiver? And as of right now, there isn't a way to do that. So what we're doing is we're adding a toggle to turn the waiver itself off while still having the form selector turned on, so that you can now create an intake survey without having your attendees have to sign a waiver. So for those of you that want one without the other, you'll be able to do that through, we'll still be calling it the waiver step for now. You may see the user interface change to waiver /survey, but you're going to be able to do that on the waiver step, which is, I think, a nice usability improvement for those who would like to see that change. Next up, on the tech check page, there used to be a start date that was listed on this tech check page. Again, it was something that it was an idea that we conceptualized before Obvio launched. And as the product became used, it was a feature that just never materialized. But this start date for tech check still existed, again, confusing folks. So that's no longer there. It never did anything to begin with, so you're not missing anything. So again, just cleaning up the user interface to make things, well, hopefully a little bit more usable. So those are the major pieces. There's a couple of changes on the attendees page. Number one, you already saw me reference a waiver URL. People have asked, how can I download a single waiver, right? Because if you wanted to download all waivers signed, you can go to Attendee Tools and click Download Waivers, and that will download all of the waivers that all of your attendees have signed into a zip file. But you may not be looking for just one waiver. You may be looking, or sorry, you may not be looking for all waivers. You may just be looking for one waiver specifically. So now, inside the user interface, you can actually click this little download waiver button, or you can copy and paste the URL and open that in a new tab. So that is now accessible right here. Now, while I'm on this page, I want you to notice that there's a new phone number field that's inside of the user interface. The phone number field is something that is a step towards what we're doing with SMS functionality. So you can currently update individual attendees' phone numbers from within the attendees page. You can also import attendee phone numbers. The field name, it has to be before the tags, and the field name is, I believe, phone number. Now, we are updating the actual help page around the import, and we'll provide a new demo or a new sample file. It's an optional field. You don't have to include it in the import, but if you do, you'll be able to import all of your attendees' phone numbers. Additionally, each of the service integrations has been updated to import the primary phone number for your contacts automatically. So if you're using Keep, HubSpot, MailChimp, or ActiveCampaign, all of those services now will automatically import the main phone number in addition to first name, last name, and email address. Now, all of that's important because we can turn on SMS functionality, but if you don't have a way to actually get your attendees' phone number data into the platform, well, that doesn't seem very useful. So that's what has been done so far. Next week, we'll give you a demo of the actual SMS functionality, but we are extensively testing it, and it will be turned on within the next 10 days. By essentially next Friday, you guys are all going to have access to the SMS functionality inside of Obvio. Yeah, we're very, very excited. I've talked about the cost around SMS. Previously, if you've been using Obvio for a while, you may remember that we talked a long time ago about SMS functionality being limited to attendees who purchased a ticket through Marketplace. And that the Marketplace fee, the 3% platform fee that Obvio charges in addition to Stripe's fee, would be to cover SMS functionality. So two things that are happening next week when we do this. Number one, the Marketplace fee from Obvio is going away. So there will no longer be a 3% platform fee to use the Marketplace feature, whether it's the current feature that's in beta or the new Marketplace that will be released hopefully this month. Keep in mind, there are still your Stripe fees. So Stripe still does charge your processing fees. However, Obvio no longer charges a fee for you to use the Marketplace system. At the same time, SMS functionality becomes a pay-per-use service. So every time you want to send a broadcast, there's a fee for the broadcast, which is $1, and there's a fee for each individual number that you send a text message to. It is 2 cents for US and Canada phone numbers. It's 10 cents for all others. The system, when you set up your broadcast, will tell you how much the fee is going to be based on the current filter that you've created, right? Because it's using the same broadcast feature that Grant showed at the beginning of this call, right? So you can filter down your attendees to only checked in. You can filter down your attendees to VIP only. You can filter down your attendees to just not checked in attendees, and then send an SMS to those people. When you do, the system will say, based on the current attendees, this is how much it is going to cost. Would you like to use your default card on file? Or for those of you who are using the platform for clients, Muddy, you come to mind, Dorita comes to mind, and a few others, you may want to use your client's card to send those SMSs. You can add the client credit card and select that credit card to send the SMS broadcast. The fee that is told to you at the time of broadcast is an estimate. If you set up the broadcast and you have 100 attendees, but the broadcast is set for 2 days from now, and in that 2-day time span, you add an additional 1,000 attendees to your event, when the broadcast is sent, it is sent to the full list based on the rules that you applied. And the cost associated with that broadcast will also change based on the number of attendees who are in the system at the time that you press send. So because we have no way to know magically divine whether or not you're going to import additional attendees, or if you're going to have additional attendees sign up between the time that you broadcast and the time, or set up the broadcast and the time that the broadcast is sent, that is just an estimate. Results may vary, exactly. So just a few things to keep in mind. So we're, clearly really excited about it. Yeah, so there you go. Those are a few things. One other thing that I'll share with you, we are in the process of testing, which means it's really close to getting to you, a new service integration, which is for Go High Level or High Level. And the service integration that we're going to be using or connecting after that is a product called ConvertKit. So that's a little bit of future casting for you. But within the next couple of weeks, Go High Level should be available for use as a 5th service integration. And then by the end of the summer, we're hoping to have ConvertKit added as well. So lots of little things happening in the background. Hopefully things that make your life a little bit easier for those of you who are using the marketplace, for tickets that you're actually selling. We just made your life a lot less expensive. So yay us and yay you. And for those of you who want to be able to SMS or text your attendees, but you don't want to use our marketplace feature, we also just made that feature accessible to everybody. So lots of pluses around both of those things taking place. And we're really excited about it. So hopefully you guys are as well. I gather that 2 questions came in while I was yammering on. So Heather, why don't we knock those couple out before we say thank you for coming this week?
Yeah, so there's actually 4, 3 of which are from Muddy. But the first one, he just wants to know how Marketplace is coming along, how the progress is, if we started testing it internally, and if there's anything you can share about it.
I can tell you I haven't started testing it internally. So that usually gives you a pretty good indication that we're still a ways away. However, I've been having regular meetings with the developer, and we just assigned a new developer to that team to help speed the process along and get us to the final stretch. I know that we're really close to us testing. Based on the conversation that I had with them today, they're hoping for us, myself, Grant, to be able to start testing Marketplace internally this week, which hopefully will, depending on what we find, it may mean you get it the week following. It may be a couple weeks after that. But I'm hoping, and I feel pretty confident in saying it, that it'll be ready this month.
Genevieve had a question, how do you add text to the login page, letting them know the password on my login page under the settings icon? I only have the option to change the background image, no place for text. And under the email settings, there's no text choice either.
No worries. Genevieve, what's your organization name?
It's iPivot Now. iPivot Now.
And which event are we looking at?
It's the 20-hour teacher certification.
Yoga versus osteoporosis and scoliosis.
Yep.
Okay, so all right. So do you see these 2 checkboxes right here?
Oh, yep. Where'd those come from? Hovering over them?
Yeah. So one of them is, here we go.
Oh, I gotcha. It just, all right, you just have to move the cursor around. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which template are you using?
I'm not really sure. I feel like I'm doing it manually. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're all using a template, but you're using the
Okay.
using the classic template. So I think there's also, there's text somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah,
What am I missing?
hidden there.
What were we going to say, Grant?
Uh,
Actually, you know what? No,
Been
this is the one where there's a logo. That's why, because the logo's above it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So text, but then text below, right? And the forgot password. Isn't there one between the login and forgot?
There, I don't think so.
I was only just doing this, but it might have been on another template.
Yeah. Genevieve, while I'm in here, I'm just going to make a really quick change, okay?
Yeah, feel free. Thank you. Oh, that looks much better. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Yeah, and you can still, if you want to add some color to the background, you can do that here. right? So if
Okay.
you wanted to, I'm just going to make it red,
Yeah, yeah.
but
That's great.
you know, you can make it a, you know, you can add whatever color you want to the background. That could add a little bit, just allow things to pop a little bit easier. Yeah,
Mhm.
I thought there was, you know what, I think each of the templates is slightly different.
Yeah, I was looking at cards has one in between login and forgot.
Yeah. Link dot slash classic.
So if you disable the password, right, and I'm about to say, here's the one password to use, do you keep that where on the bottom where it says forget password? I would probably want to take that away, right?
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
that's an interesting point you make. Yeah, classic only has that one. So yes, however, I don't believe you can. So you can hide it.
Oh, yeah, that
Um,
works. Yep.
right. So how you would hide it is a little bit cheeky, but let's just say I'm going to make your background white again, because that's just easier. You can go into forgot password and change the text to white and the icon to white,
Okay.
which actually, as I say that, you can't. Fudge. Hey, did I see James on this call? I know I saw him on this call. James, are
Yeah,
you
he's
still
still
on this
here.
call?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
James, can you do me a favor? Let's add this as a task list, because this is actually something that I had on my list and I just forgot about it. When the password step is disabled, I'd like to do two things. Number one, the password link here. Actually, I think that may already be disabled there. Double check to make sure that the password option, like the option to reset password, is hidden from the menu, which I feel like maybe it is. Yeah, so you change password, that's already done. Let's, on the login page, hide the forgot password link when the set password or when the password step in check-in is disabled. Those two
Is
things.
disabled?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
And kind of like the sign up, it should still be visible on the login page. So you can actually take a look at, see how sign up, if it's disabled, when the text is still here, but if I preview it, the sign up text goes away. See that?
Yeah.
So functionally, it's the exact same thing. We want to take the password step, and when the password step is disabled, it should be visible in the editor, but in preview and on live, it should go away the exact same way the sign up does.
Right, got it. Will do.
Thank you.
So isn't the use case on that though, if you're not providing the password on that page, then what do they do?
Yeah, then they have to get it, because here's the thing. This is, for those of you who are listening, you get to hear an internal conversation. My bad. The problem is when you set a if you're expecting everybody to use the temporary password, the event password, and they click the forgot my password, it sends them a link to reset the password, which then changes the password for them. So it's a bad use case. The only other option that I could think of is you do that, and this feels a lot more complicated. If you do that, we then send an email that is like, here's the event password, but I don't think that's the way we want to do
Well, not that. I'm like, here's the login link. Resend me my login link. That's one of the things we wondered about adding. Just go, Muddy. Yeah, we're having an internal discussion, so you're welcome.
Could you, if there is a default password set for the event, automatically drop that on the login page design?
It's a very insecure way. This is the problem with security, right? Because now all you need to do is guess someone's email.
address.
Yeah. which is not all that difficult. Particularly with lots of large events, you know someone's coming. You can probably find it on their webpage. You know, some of these high profile events. So that's not a great experience either. But the login link being sent to them at least is secure, and you're getting rid of passwords.
If you had password off, or if you had a default password sent and someone clicked that reset my password, essentially they would have a unique password, but everyone else would still have the default password. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is confusing. It's mixed messages, right? Because you've got the official email coming from the event says use this password, but you've just changed your password. So it's not going to be that.
Yeah, and now for the rest of the event, every time they do that, that one person who clicked forgot my password will be effed. I like your idea though, Grant, of sending them when the password is up. All right, enough of this conversation. James, for now, let's do exactly what we just talked about, because like I said, that was on my list. And then Grant, why don't you and I talk about the ability to send a login link through the password reset functionality. And we can, that's a harder thing to do, but I'm sure we can put somebody on that. Okay, Heather.
All right, somebody has a question related to the future marketplace functionality. Do you expect that signed in attendees will be able to visit the registration page, for example, buy a VIP upgrade once the event began?
We just want a marketplace that works first, Muddy.
Yeah, let's one thing at a time. I understand. I know about that. There's a few things that I'm holding back as we get marketplace out there. One of them is that. The other one is the ability to add additional data at the point of ticket sale. So there's a few things that I have on my wish list that are going to be part of Marketplace 2.5. So I'm just making up numbers now.
All right. His next question said, I've noticed the event date on the settings page is a frequent hangup for new Obvio users because Zoom is not available outside the event dates. Would it be useful to create a built-in buffer to make Zoom available about 24 hours before or after the event start date?
Yeah, this is a long-standing internal debate. Yes, that would be incredibly useful.
Have another internal discussion.
Yeah. That seems like a fairly innocuous thing, but there are Zoom license ramifications around that. So for now, we will probably just work on doing a better job at educating our users. Was that the last question, Heather?
It was, yes.
Oh, this is fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you for this clearly fantastic and internal conversation that I should have chosen to do outside of this call, but sometimes you're in the moment. So there it is. And with that, this next week hopefully will be a big one for us. And hopefully you'll see some really cool things next week as it relates to SMS. Again, we've been doing a lot of testing with it internally, and we're really happy with how it's working. So I'm excited to get it into your hands as part of the broadcast beta. That's where it's going to be opened up, right? Because it's part of the same system. So if you are using the broadcaster, you are the communications tool, you're also going to be able to have access to SMS functionality. So we're really, really excited about that. So with that, Kat Haber, Dead Dog Saloon is what DDS stands for. It's a bar that is, I don't know, quarter of a mile in that direction. And one day I was sitting outside and it was really sunny and I needed a hat. So there you go. That's what happened. So guys, thank you all very, very much. You guys are awesome. really happy that you guys are all using the platform, and always excited to see how you stretch us and the platform to suit your needs. If you have any questions between now and next week, you guys know where to reach us. But just in case, you can reach us in the Facebook group, which you should all be a part of. You can also reach us via help@obv.io. Also 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, inside of the application itself by using the chat widget. That's not an AI bot. That's actually Heather or James or Chuck, sometimes me, sometimes Grant, working with you guys one-on-one. So lots of ways to reach us between now and then. You don't have to wait until next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Or what is that? 10:30 p.m. Adelaide time? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, there
I'm
you
just
go.
starting
All
my
right.
day now. I'm just warming up.
Enjoy the rest of it, Grant. Thanks, Heather. Talk to the rest of you guys soon. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.